Okay, let's dive right into this. When we think about the 2026 World Cup, our minds naturally jump straight to the pitch, right? The goals, the intense rivalries, just the sheer spectacle of the beautiful game. But right behind the scenes of this monumental tournament lies this fascinating, incredibly complex web of operations. So today, we're putting together a comprehensive explainer to really look at the massive logistical, supply chain, and security realities of the 2026 World Cup. We're going to examine exactly what it takes to safely and efficiently move millions of people and literally mountains of freight across an entire continent.
Here's our game plan for today. We'll quickly cover the unprecedented scale of the tournament, the heavy lifting of supply chain logistics, and navigating North American transit. Then we'll tackle border crossings, security, and environmental risks, and finally wrap up with staying safe in those record-breaking crowds.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, the biggest World Cup ever, and the absolute monumental task of scaling this event across North America. And honestly, it all really comes down to this one number, 16. That's 16 host cities spread across 3 vast independent nations. We're talking the United States, Canada, and Mexico. By expanding the format and utilizing co-hosts across such a massive landmass, FIFA isn't just putting on a tournament, they are staging the largest and most complex sporting event in human history. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer geographic spread we're dealing with. Look at this map. You've got major hubs stretching from Vancouver and Seattle all the way up in the Pacific Northwest, all the way down to Mexico City, and then way across to Miami and Toronto. The immediate logistical headache here, it isn't just about getting the teams to their stadiums. It's about facilitating the movement of millions of fans, staff, and media across thousands of miles. Remember, this isn't a tournament contained within a single European country that you can just cross by train in a few hours. No way. This requires full-blown continent-wide coordination.
Which brings us right to Section 2, moving mountains of freight, and the immense supply chain pressure building up in these host markets.
Now, while the fans definitely grab the headlines, the invisible backbone of this whole operation is freight. Markets like Dallas, Houston, Miami, LA, and the New York, New Jersey metro area are bracing to absorb astronomical truckload and last-mile delivery pressure. According to logistics experts at Gebruder Weiss, this pressure is highly concentrated. If you're working in food and beverage, retail and apparel, hospitality, consumer packaged goods, or promotional merchandise, well, you are staring down a massive supply chain challenge. These specific sectors are aggressively competing for regional warehousing space as we speak. Plus, with matches spread across 3 different countries, cross-border transportation capacity is tightening up significantly. Think about it. A minor customs delay that might usually just be a bump in the road can suddenly become a major disruption when delivery windows for matchday merch are so severely compressed.
So the crucial point is exactly what the experts at Gebruder Weiss say. Execution matters more than perfect forecasting. You can plan all you want, right? But when tournament time actually arrives, businesses absolutely must rely on real-time shipment visibility. The most successful operations out there won't rely on centralized distribution. Instead, they're already staging their inventory in regional hubs close to high-demand markets, like Texas and Southern California, just to shorten those delivery cycles and react to sudden demand spikes.
Moving right along to Section 3, navigating North America and how fans will actually get between and within these host cities.
While airlines and Amtrak definitely connect the broader continent, the local transit situation on the ground is incredibly diverse. Just look at the stark contrast between 2 major venues. For MetLife Stadium in the New York, New Jersey area, using the NJ Transit Rail is strongly recommended. You just take a train to Secaucus Junction, hop on a direct shuttle, and you're there. Trying to drive, you'd be fighting horrific traffic and paying exorbitant parking fees. But then, look over at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. There is literally no direct public transit to the stadium. None. The nearest train station is about 8 miles away. So you are entirely reliant on self-driving, taxis, or ride shares. This just goes to show us that logistical preparation for attendees has to be hyper-local. What works perfectly for Atlanta's MARTA system simply won't apply to Los Angeles' SoFi Stadium.
And that local variation leads us right into Section 4, border crossings and visas. Let's talk essential documentation and, crucially, avoiding scams.
Depending on your nationality, you absolutely must secure country-specific entry rules well in advance. Things like the U.S. ESTA, the Mexican Digital Multiple Immigration Form, or the Canadian Electronic Travel Authorization. And we really need to explicitly highlight this warning from the intelligence analysts at Riskline. There is no such thing as a FIFA visa. No way, it doesn't exist. Unfortunately, scammers are already out there exploiting the complexity of a 3-country tournament.
Having a match ticket in your hand absolutely does not guarantee your entry across a border. You still have to apply for normal visitor visas, and you should only ever purchase tickets and accommodations through official channels to avoid those incredibly common travel and lodging scams. Now, shifting gears a bit to Section 5, Security and Environmental Risks, we need to assess the ground reality in each host nation. Notice how distinctly different the threat landscapes are across the board here. In the U.S., as a global counterterrorism leader, there's an inherently elevated risk of high-profile terror threats in crowded spaces, alongside environmental disruptions like intense East Coast thunderstorms and brutal summer heat waves. Moving down to Mexico, the primary concerns reported are opportunistic and organized crime linked to cartels, alongside environmental pressures like severe water scarcity in cities like Monterrey and high-altitude smog down in Mexico City. Canada, meanwhile, presents the lowest crime risk of the three, but it faces significant environmental threats from summer wildfires, where the smoke can literally travel thousands of miles and ground flights. Beyond natural and criminal threats, there is also the risk of civil unrest. The World Cup offers a massive global platform, and various groups will likely use it to amplify their causes. In the U.S., this could mean politically charged demonstrations across a variety of social issues, which can lead to heavy-handed crowd control. Down in Mexico, we're actually seeing anti-gentrification protests. Local residents and workers are demonstrating against rising rents and living costs driven by tournament-related developments near venues like Estadio Azteca. It's a highly complex socioeconomic reality, and organizers have to navigate it impartially. Which brings us to our sixth and final section, staying safe in crowds. Bringing our focus all the way down from the macro level to the individual attendee, risk analysts strongly advise targeted personal safety measures, particularly for vulnerable groups. Navigating exceptionally high crowd densities pre- and post-match will be absolutely critical, as the sheer volume of people strains transit hubs and pedestrian zones, elevating the risk of opportunistic crime and even stampedes. Now, reports do note that Mexico currently has a higher risk profile for harassment and hate crimes directed at female and LGBTQ+ travelers compared to the US and Canada. The actionable guidance here is pretty clear. Stick to official or women-only taxes to avoid transit harassment, always maintain strict control over your food and drinks, and avoid walking alone in unfamiliar neighborhoods, particularly on the outskirts of cities after dark. And honestly, this brings up a really practical takeaway for attendees traversing all three nations. Maintain your situational awareness. Whether you're navigating regional religious conservatism, localized anti-immigration sentiments, or just the passionate, sometimes heated friction of rival football fans, the safest approach in unfamiliar, highly dense crowds is discretion. Simply avoid engaging in politically sensitive debates and just focus on the shared experience of the sport we all love. So we've covered the staggering scale of the host cities, the immense pressure on the regional freight networks, those highly localized transit puzzles, strict border controls, and the deeply nuanced security and environmental landscapes. Staging this tournament is going to be a logistical triumph in the making, but one that is fraught with complex, real-world hurdles. So I'll leave you with this to consider. With all these moving parts, is North America truly ready for the beautiful game's biggest stage? I guess we'll find out soon enough. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.
For 16 teams, journey over.